Where is all the money that is being generated from college sports like basketball and football actually going to? College athletes deserve to be paid from all the revenue they help bring in. For many years now, there has been talk about college athletes getting paid to play sports. Millions of dollars are being collected from college sports like basketball and football, but college athletes don't get any of it. The universities benefit financially from the skills of these athletes. College athletes put in countless hours of practice and take a high risk of injuries every year and deserve a portion of the revenue they help bring in. College athletes put in countless hours of practice and dedication day in and day out. Athletes from basketball and football within universities dedicate themselves all hours of the day to be the best. Spending multiple hours practicing, working out in the gym, and watching film. According to an article on diverseeducation.com by an education writer named Justin Pope, football athletes spend around 44 hours a week in practice. That's 4 hours more than the average work week. College athletes have to juggle the responsibility of going to school full-time, which is an extreme amount of work in itself. And college athletes are going through the same everyday mental and physical stress that's encountered when being a college athlete. And while school and sports continue to consume the majority of these students' time, they cannot be employed in any sort of workforce according to the NCAA. Being enrolled in a sport, whether it's basketball or football, the NCAA has a rule that Division I college athletes are not allowed to be in any sort of workforce. With all the dedication and motivation these athletes bring, their biggest contribution to the universities is that they play for free and not a penny earned. College athletes should be rewarded with a small portion of money that they help bring in. These athletes deserve to be paid at least something for their extreme, difficult jobs that they were told to do during their 4 years at these universities. The money is definitely there, and there should be a small percent that should be given back to these hardworking athletes. With all the practices and games college athletes take part in, they are at high risk for injuries. Consider that both professional and college athletes have high risk of injuries almost every day, showing off their talent to fans and their team, but only the professional athletes will get paid some big bucks regardless of an injury. With the contract, a professional athlete will receive some sort of compensation when he or she gets injured, but not college athletes. For example, the basketball players Sean Livingston, Rajon Rondo, and Kevin Ware had injuries from the sport. In the regular season, Sean Livingston, point guard of the Golden State Warriors, suffered a horrific injury to his knee in 2007. He was driving up for a layup when his knee buckled and he collapsed in pain. He later went to the doctor after the game to receive x-rays. They discovered that he dislocated his tibia and also tearing his 4 different ligaments in his knee. 2011, during the NBA playoffs, Rajon Rondo from the Celtics was scrambling for the ball when his elbow popped out of his socket, resulting in a dislocated elbow. In April of last year, a college athlete named Kevin Ware had an injury significantly worse than both of these men, when Kevin Ware's bone came out 6 inches from his leg in the NCAA Division I basketball finals. Although the injury that Kevin Ware had, which was much more severe than professional athletes, Kevin does not get paid anything unlike the professionals. They get paid millions even when they are injured. Many of these college athletes have high hopes in playing in the professionals to make millions, but if a career-ending injury gets in the way, these hopes and dreams are crushed and they are left with no money. So Kevin Ware and the rest of the college athletes deserve to get paid for the abuse their body takes on a daily basis and the possibility of a career-ending injury. According to Mark Ellerman, an associate professor of law from the University of New York, the NCAA produces $11 billion in annual revenue from college sports. As you can see, the money is there to compensate these athletes. Some athletes still don't even have enough money to eat dinner. Recently, a former guard at University of Connecticut, Shabazz Napier, quoted, we as student athletes get utilized for what we do so well. We are definitely best to get a scholarship to our universities, but at the end of the day, that doesn't cover everything. We do have hungry nights that we don't have enough money to eat, and sometimes money is needed. Napier and his team are working hard to win the NCAA tournament, which will bring in close to $750 million this year, according to USA Today. Napier says, there are hungry nights that I go to bed and I'm starving, so something should change. There has been athletes that I've talked about not having money for food. Finally, due to the college athletes' dedication to their team, their hours of practice, their high risk of injuries, and academic requirements, these athletes deserve to be compensated with more than just a scholarship. This additional money for the college athletes could be for their entertainment expenses, leisure expenses, and travel expenses. So much revenue is made from college sports tickets, college apparel, and TV contracts. A small percent of that revenue should be given back to these college athletes. It's not easy to juggle being a full-time student and practicing sports for multiple hours. These college athletes should be recognized and rewarded financially for their dedication to the sport.
All right, Andrew, let me start with the stuff that is pretty solid about the speech. I thought you did a good job citing evidence in your argument. You presented 2 or 3 examples. You had a piece of data about the amount of money that comes in. There's an authority who talks about the legal aspect of this. You've got good statistical information on the amount of time that the students are devoting to practice, and you've got some factual data that talks about what the rules are concerning what they can do when it comes to having a job, that sort of thing. So I think you did get a lot of data into the speech. Now, there are a couple of issues. This sounds to me mostly like either a value argument or a policy claim. Your policy claim is that we should be doing this, which means that we ought to be advocating a particular way in which we do this, that sort of thing, and that's not what the assignment is. The value claim, they deserve to get this, that's a value judgment. In essence, what you're saying is that the scholarships that they receive are not enough, they're insufficient, that they deserve more than that. I think there's a way to make the argument that a supplement or additional revenues for the students would have an advantage or it would produce a beneficial effect and make it a claim of fact. But you need to do that. You know, it's one of those things where, did you turn in a draft outline?
No.
And get feedback? Yeah, see, I think that's, because that would have been one of the things I'd have pointed out and said, here's the way that you can make this argument work a little bit more effectively, and that is that you could say, for instance, that the student athletes suffer as a consequence of the current limitations. And then you've got those examples of, you know, the guys who go to bed hungry, they are trapped on the campus and they can't go out on the weekend, you know, that sort of thing. Oh yeah, that's okay. That reminds us all. Turn off our phones. Set them on silent. We're just lucky that it went off while I'm talking as opposed to while you're speaking. All right. So I think that you needed to, like I said, turn it more into a claim of fact rather than a claim of value. For instance, on the policy argument, the issue would come up. Well, how would we do this? Because you mentioned the $11 billion that's collected, but that $11 billion is not collected by all the schools that have all of these sports, and some schools have substantially more than others, you know, and one of the problems that comes up, of course, is that if money becomes a factor, then in essence we're turning high school players into professionals because we say we've got the bigger compensation package here when you come to Alabama than they have at Georgia. You know, because we'll get your scholarship, which is pretty much the same, but we'll kick in an extra $4,000 a semester, whereas Georgia's only going to give you $1,500 a semester. Then you run into questions about whether or not this is really, you know, amateur stuff, that kind of thing. And by the way, the revenues, like I said, the revenue streams for some schools are going to be different than others. What sports are we talking about? If it's just limited to basketball and football, that's a little bit different. Don't people who get athletic scholarships to run track get injured too? Don't the ones who play volleyball and I don't know that there are a lot of golf injuries. I suppose there might be, but water polo, for instance, those folks get injured. Is that going to come out of that pool?
Cheerleading's a sport too, so you have to pay them.
Which one?
I'm just kidding.
Cheerleaders.
Cheerleading, yes.
They
Oh,
sprain their wrist all the time.
well, I've heard the one about, did we have that speech in here about the gamers?
Not yet.
No, it was in my other class. Apparently some schools are now offering scholarships to gamer students, that kind of thing. So, man, we're talking about what kinds of injuries. I don't know what's involved with that. But like I said, that's the problem with a policy argument. Policy arguments are more complicated. And that's why I didn't really want them to be talked about on this particular point. Your argument basically is the student athletes are harmed by the current structure. And they're harmed in these particular ways. They are left hungry, they are left unprotected during injuries, and they are denied access to the value of their own name, for instance, on stuff that gets sold with their name. I don't know if they sell that. See, at SC they don't put the name on anybody's jersey, so when you go in and you get number 7, you get 7. That's what it is. It doesn't say the name of the player on it. All right. Thank you.